How's it going? Are we live? Are we all the way live? How you feeling out there, everybody? What's going on out there in YouTube land? Alrighty, welcome to the Friday edition of Burn It Down with Kim Brown. Of course, I'm always so happy and excited to see y'all's extremely specific faces up in the place because my people come through, show love. They drop them fire emojis in the chat. They say, "What's up, Kim?" And I say, "What's up, everybody?" and it's a fun time had by all. Of course, you all know Burn It Down with Kim Brown is a safe space where we set oppression ablaze. We getting all rid of all the system of oppression, all the isms and all the crazy stuff that holds us down as people, as a human race, but specifically as a Black woman, because they out here holding us down, but we are not going to take it laying down, not by any stretch of the imagination. What's up, David? Thank you very much. Yes, I did. I got my hair twisted up. Let me show y'all since there is some interest. Hold on. All right. What we got here? So I went to the salon. Oh, Jesus, y'all. I went to the salon yesterday. Just to get my hair color touched up, right? Because I'm an old broad, so I get strays of grays, so I got to get my joint touched up hither and thither. And I was in the salon, right, and I was noided up. I was so paranoid. So it's a tiny. It's like if I say Salon Plaza, do y'all know what I mean? Okay, even if y'all don't, the school the others, school the ones who do not know what Salon Plaza is. So this Salon Plaza type of establishment where I was has like a double suite, right? So it was a double wide, so to speak. And it's, including myself and the stylist, it's 6 people in there, and 2 people was unmasked. And one person kept walking in and out without a mask, right? And I'm in there like, oh my God, Jesus, please, please, Lord. To the extent that I was tempted to ready to shut the whole thing down and straight up walk out. And I did actually get up to leave. And I told the stylist, I said, hey, I'm gonna step outside and you can text me when you're ready for me because there's too many people out here not wearing masks. And long story short, she was relatively cool about it, but she was like, well, why don't you tell them to mask up? I'm like, baby, this ain't my salon. There should be a standard set of protocols for being inside, right? Either you with the masking or you not with the masking. And I'm pretty sure in the state of Maryland, you still got to wear your mask inside, or maybe up to the business. I don't care. We are not out of this pandemic. I don't care what is opening up. It don't make me no bitter, never mind. And I am vaccinated and I'm still very much afraid of catching COVID. And I'm not sure if you all heard the story. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but it's not really a whole lot to get into. But a cruise ship, right? They starting to let cruise ships cruise. And apparently 2 passengers on the cruise ship who had allegedly been vaccinated tested positive for COVID while on the cruise. Now, news reports said that they were asymptomatic. It don't make me no better, never mind. I mean, asymptomatic is, I guess, if you're going to catch COVID is the best route that you would like to go. But it just goes to show you that we still do not fully understand all the ins and outs of the virus, all the ins and outs of the vaccination. And, we are still living in a pandemic. And guess what? Kim Brown's going to be out here stepping accordingly. Now the rest of y'all can go out here all willy-nilly, maskless and living your best maskless life. That won't be me, at least if I'm indoors around people of whom I am not familiar with. So there's that. So guys, y'all are hilarious. So coming up on today's show, so we have a cool little show planned. I want us to talk about what's going on with Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman from Minnesota, who is catching a lot of shit from Democratic leadership behind her comments comparing atrocities, her words, righteously chosen words, atrocities committed by the United States, Israel, and putting them in the same sentence as alleged atrocities committed by Hamas and the Taliban in Afghanistan. And Democrats are all boo-hoo, all in I won't even say they're in their feelings, actually, because this is like one of their favorite things to do. Oh, they get to chastise a more radical or progressive member, especially black, especially woman. Oh my goodness. Nancy Pelosi told her assistant, told her chief of staff, baby, get your typing fingers ready. We got a resolution. We got a statement of condemnation. We need to get out ASAP. And it's embarrassing, actually, because it goes to show you, number one, again, the glee in which liberals, progressives will go in order to wag their finger or try to enact some sort of punishment against a woman of color, specifically a black woman like Ilhan Omar, a black Muslim woman like Ilhan Omar. But the deliberate ahistorical lens by which all of Congress elects to look at America through, and it's so mistaken in its foundation, right? Because it's based on this premise of the amazing public relations job that United States politicians have done in terms of positioning this country, or framing it rather, as a place that upholds democracy, spreads democracy globally, everywhere, right? That's America's thing, allegedly. Well, we all know, nope, it is the opposite, actually. America spreads war. America spreads poverty. America spreads violence, right? This is what we're good at, democracy. No, we ain't spreading democracy anywhere, nowhere. So we're going to get into Ilhan Omar's comments and talk about, I think she should leave the party, personally. But wait. Y'all don't get too deep on that tangent just yet, because we ain't there yet. Our goal also for today's show, we were trying to get with a labor leader out of Canada, Carolyn Egan, who is the president of the United Steelworkers Local 8300. So guys, in Canada, right? Canada. Y'all know Canada. Y'all seen Canada before. Some of y'all might ain't even been to Canada. I've been to Canada before. Nice place. Very clean. They do have a racism problem, though, right? That is thinly veiled under that veneer of politeness, right? And I won't even call it veneer, because Canadians are actually quite polite. But make no mistake, Canada is on this continent with the United States. It is a colonist state. Are you talking to me, Tunde? Me? Okay. I don't think Tunde is. He's talking to me. That's okay. So anyway, so Canada's racist, right? And per all racist places during this COVID-19 global pandemic, people who are of color, black people, brown people, poor people have suffered the most under this. And this is no exception in Canada. So there are a group of workers at a packaging plant just north of Toronto, or outside of Toronto, in North York. And I think I saw Mississauga in there somewhere too. They've been striking for pandemic pay, right? The boost in their already low wage to compensate for the fact that they were essential workers and they worked throughout this pandemic. Not only that, but the company that they work for, similar to Amazon and Walmart and all the companies here in the US, made so much money during this pandemic, and they opted not to pass any of those enormous profits and revenues onto their workers. So the workers there at the Rex plant outside of Toronto decided to strike. So we're trying to get Carolyn on now. So y'all stand by for that. But before we get Carolyn on and we get into what's happening, because the labor movement, this is a global movement. You dig, right? Like we gonna check in with all corners as much as we are able to. And most of the workers at this particular place in Ontario are women and women of color. So this is why this is very much a gender rights issue, a gender equity issue when it comes to fair pay for what they do. But while we're waiting to get Carolyn on, guys, I'm gonna tell y'all a story real quick, because I had an encounter with the police today. Yes, it was crazy. So let me break it down. So I get up early on show days, especially probably like 5:45, and I'm up and I'm doing stuff and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Round 9ish, I hear boom, 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 like someone banged on my door, and I'm like, nigga, is that the police? Like, what's okay? So my dogs start going crazy, and when my dogs start going crazy, I can't just open the door, right? Because the dogs is like, what's up? So I walked outside, went around back, came out front, and it was my one of my neighbors, and my neighbor doesn't speak English all that well, but they kept saying dog, right? And I'm like, half asleep, not fully comprehending everything at that hour. And I'm like, dog, all my dogs are inside. And she's like, dog, nigga, dog. Well, she didn't call me the N-word, but she's like, dog. And I'm like, oh, and I see these dogs and these like big huskies. And I'm like, one of them is in my yard, one of them is in her yard. And I'm like, where do these dogs come from? So as the confusion sort of wears off, right? Because for reasons I don't quite understand, when dogs in my neighborhood go wayward, they come to my house. I don't understand what it is. I promise you, no fewer than 4 or 5 dogs, who I don't know, by the way, have found themselves on my property. I'm like, what's happening here? Anyway, so it's pouring down rain. And I grabbed one of the dogs, nice dog, thankfully. They were nice, pleasant animals, big dogs though. And my dogs, I got pit bulls, so my dogs is ready to rumble at any time. So I have to make sure that my dogs are inside. So long story short, I finally get these dogs, both dogs, into the yard and close the gate. And I'm like, yo, I don't want to call animal control right now because I recognize these dogs. These dogs are in my neighborhood, but they're not on my street. And I'm like, I know that their owners got to be looking for them because I've seen this guy walk these dogs quite often. And if a person is walking a dog, that means they care about their dog and they take care of their dogs, right? So that means they are going to be missing their dogs if that's what's going on, right? So I'm like, all right. If I call animal control, the pound is a nice 30 minutes from here, right? And I know that if PG County come and pick up these dogs and get up with the owner, it's going to be a big fine, right? For having your dogs unleashed or roaming the neighborhood unsupervised or whatever. They come up with something to hit your pockets, right? And for 2 dogs, no less. I knew it was going to be a big fine. I'm like, man, I don't want to call animal control just yet. So I called the town police, right? And trust me, y'all, it goes against every fiber of my being to call the police to my house. And let me be even more specific. I was trying to call the town police. Toby Swoley, thank you so much, darling. You are so mwah. Thank you so much for that, Toby. And you guys, real quick sidebar, we're going to send Toby our condolences because Toby lost his mom recently. So our love and condolences go out to Toby. Toby has been a big supporter here of Burn It Down with Kim Brown. So we want to send Toby some love. And Toby, thank you for sending us some love. But so back to my story. So I'm trying to call the town police. Town police being the town police are not answering the phone, right? So I call the county non-emergency line. And I'm kind of going back and forth with this lady because I'm like, okay, I need you to call the town police because please do not send Prince George's County Police to my house. Like, I just did not want to deal with PG County. And if you're from the DMV, you could understand exactly why I did not want to deal with PG County when it came to something like a dog, because they would probably roll up with a big attitude that they was even getting called about such frivolousness, right? And it was important to me, though, that someone from the town police respond, because the town police are the ones that drive all around the neighborhood all the time. So logic would tell us that they would probably know who these dogs' owners are, because these dogs get walked quite often. Like I said, I've seen these dogs. So long story short, called the town police. They reported. They was so excited to have something to do, right? Because in my little town, despite the fact, I'm in a somewhat semi-suburban metropolitan area, it's quiet around this joint, okay? The cops don't really have a lot to do, and I know this. So the cop, very friendly, very professional, a Latina, reported, showed up. She was like, what's up? I'm like, hey. I said, I got these dogs. She's like, are dogs being aggressive? I said, no, they are not. They are the opposite of aggressive. These dogs are very nice, very well behaved. They allowed me to grab them by their collars and put them in the yard. They didn't even act like they was even thinking about trying to bite me or attack me or anything like that. So she was like, oh, yeah, I recognize this dog. So she calls the chief of police. Chief, the big huskies, who are they? And then the chief was like, oh, I think they live on X street. So she said, all right, I'm gonna go canvass the area. I'm like, cool, you go do that. and sure enough, about, let's say 20 minutes later, she came back and there was a guy somewhat close by behind her. And he said, yeah, those are my dogs. I said, well, what happened? And he said, well, the gate got open and the dogs took off. And she found the dog's owner down at the little community park where she found him looking for his dogs. So a happy story. The police did not harm me today, which is good news, right? Always a good news story from Black America. If you have an encounter with the police and you survive it, and it's actually somewhat friendly, all the more reason to rejoice. And let me just say this, like, even though I'm kind of aware that lost dogs are not necessarily a police matter, we have animal control there for a reason. However, it is exactly that kind of thing. Like, the thing that the cop did today is what cops need to be doing. That is community policing. That spared that dog owner really, it would have been a burdensome expense had his dogs gone to the pound. Like I said, the pound is not close by. The pound is a long ways away, and it would have been punitive on him. You know what I mean? There absolutely would have been some sort of fine involved. So I appreciate the town police being cool and not giving me any shit about, perhaps this being like a matter of lesser importance that was not deserving of their attention. No, this was a good thing that the cop did. So I appreciate the cop. So believe it or not, y'all, them Bambas did a nice thing today. One nice thing. And here's the other thing, y'all. Like, I've had a lot of encounters with police, to be honest. Only one resulting in an arrest, but I've been in cuffs a couple times. So I said that to say, all my encounters with police have not been bad, but the overall system of policing, I don't care how many nice encounters I have with the police. I've had enough bad ones to know that no, y'all gotta change this up. Y'all have to do this differently. How this is currently being done is unacceptable. But all of them are not always pieces of poop all the time. But maybe I caught her on a good day. Maybe I caught her on a good day because it was nice dogs involved. Who can really say? But anyway, if you're interested, I have a tiny video on my Twitter page at Kim Brown Live. That's my personal Twitter page. There's a video up there of these ginormous hairy dogs as I'm trying to corral them barefoot in the pouring rain. And meanwhile, my dogs are on the inside like, what's up, mommy? What's that? Is dogs out there for real? Ooh, can we see them? And I'm like, no, y'all chill out. Hey, I'm checking in. We got everybody, man. We even got some newbies in here. I'm seeing some faces and names I have never seen before. Oh, you ready, Tunde? Brilliant. Okay, awesome. Hey guys, oh, thank you, Vesper X. Yes, Vesper X follows me on Twitter, and Vesper X saw the video. Yeah, at Kim Brown Live. That's my personal Twitter, guys. So as I was saying at the top of the program, y'all, we know that the pandemic was experienced unevenly by Black people, by brown people, by women. And that was not only the case in the United States, that was also the case in Canada. And also, as we know here, as we are about to learn more about what has been going on in Canada in terms of this particular labor action at the Rex plant in North York, Ontario, workers have been advocating big time for more wages, especially during the pandemic, because they were deemed essential workers. They were mandated of sorts to show up to work in order to keep the economy humming, right? What they did was essential for a reason and named so for a reason. But workers at the Rex plant have been trying to negotiate for a bump in wage. So far has not worked. So they have elected to strike, and they have been striking for several weeks now. And I'm so very excited to be joined with someone who is a part of the Canadian labor movement and someone who can give us some insight as to what this strike is all about and who this strike is impacting, and, you know, even give us some thoughts about how they feel Canada has handled the pandemic. So join me, guys, as we welcome Carolyn Egan. Carolyn has been elected president of the Steelworker Toronto Area Council since 2004, and she had also previously served as vice president. She is also president of the United Steelworkers Local 8300, where she earlier held the position of recording secretary, unit chair, and steward in her workplace. And she's also the vice president of the Steelworkers Humanity Fund. And I'm so grateful for Carolyn to have made some time to join us today on Burn It Down with Kim Brown. Carolyn, thank you so much for being here.
Delighted. Thank you.
Carolyn, so I wanted to talk about, first and foremost, about this action that's happening at the Rexplast plant, where workers there have been on strike, I believe, since late April, striking for higher wages. So can you tell us about, first of all, you know, who these workers are, and the kind of work that they have been performing throughout the duration of the pandemic?
Okay, for sure. It's a small manufacturing plant in North York, which is in the sort of the northwest quadrant of the city of Toronto. Toronto has a population of about 3 million. That northwest quadrant has been very hard hit in the COVID pandemic here. It has some of the highest rates of COVID, and a lot of racialized workers live in that area. And there's a lot of apartment buildings, et cetera. So it's a place where people have been affected very, very much by COVID. A lot of essential workers. I'm a healthcare worker myself who's worked through this pandemic. But I want to talk about Rexplast. Rexplast has a small workplace, about a workforce about 35 women, primarily women. Everyone who is on the floor in that plant is an immigrant to Canada. And the vast majority of the workers on strike are Sikh, Punjabi women, and they have worked very hard through this pandemic. They work the continental shift, which is a 12-hour shift. The work is hard. And when it came to the negotiating their contract, they just felt that they had been given absolutely no respect, no recognition of making the wealth that this country, this company makes, and they wanted a raise in pay for sure, and it wasn't forthcoming. It really wasn't forthcoming, and they made the decision to strike, and an offer was put on the table. They rejected it by 90%. So they've been on the picket line since April 26th. The first 2.5 weeks, not one truck went in or out. Then an injunction came down. The trucks can be held up for 10 minutes in and out. There are now also replacement workers, and that's a particularly interesting situation, which I can get into if you want, but we will be talking here about a company. Rexplast is part of a parent operation called Richard Packaging, and they are the largest manufacturer, or I guess the largest in Canada, and the third largest in North America of packing and distribution. They make and send out small bottles used for medical and other aspects of of salad dressings, other aspects of the manufacturing industry. And we had a situation there where it's a company that increased its revenue during COVID 21% specifically from COVID-related product. And we're talking 68 million there. And the company increased the bonuses to its executive by 150% in 2020. And yet these workers are making little over minimum wage. It's a strong line, and they're very strong women. And in many, many senses, it's a microcosm of the injustice and the inequality that has become so clear through the pandemic here. So we're on the line, and I'm out there every day. I then go to my own workplace and they're very strong, and we're really pushing to get a decent settlement for these women. And whatever happens, I mean, they've grown tremendously in confidence, and they have respect for what they're doing, and they're getting a lot of respect, I think, from the broader labor movement and the community in Toronto.
Carolyn, so you said that most of these workers are women and of Southeast Asian descent, or immigrants from Southeast Asia, and you said that they are making minimum wage or just barely above minimum wage. What is the minimum wage in Canada, and what is the wage that they have been trying to negotiate from Rex Class?
Okay, well, they're making, most of them anyway, about $14.25 an hour. Mm-hmm. And they initially were looking, bargaining is bargaining, but what the last proposal that they had put in before the strike was 2%, 2% over for a 3-year contract. We're not looking, that's not a lot of money when you think of the figures I put out earlier about what the bonuses are, what the increase in profits and revenue have been for that company. And it would cost the company very, very little. And that's why we feel they're treating these women with absolute disrespect. It's not necessary. And I think it just tells you what people have been through during the pandemic and what we're going to be up against when we get out of this pandemic. We're slowly ebbing our way out of it. But the corporations, they're being very hard. In my own union, which is the United Steelworkers, up in Sudbury, Ontario, you may not be familiar, but it's a mining town. There are 2,600 miners out. They rejected by 70% a collective agreement we're trying to get against Vale, which is a big Brazilian multinational, trying to get concessions out of them. ArcelorMittal, which is the largest steel company in the globe, 2,600 went out in northern Quebec. And so we're seeing, I'm not saying there's a strike wave in this country, nothing like it, but nonetheless, people are fighting because they have to fight. They have no option but to fight. And we need to build as strong solidarity as we possibly can.
Absolutely. And, $14.24, it's not really a livable wage, especially in an area so expensive as the Greater Toronto area. Toronto is pricey. It's called the High Rent District.
Pricey. Yeah.
All over Toronto. But Carolyn, you mentioned that there have been replacement workers entered into this equation. Can you describe that for us?
I will. And there's an agency, they're agency workers in a sense. It's called A to Z, and it is supplying replacement workers who are primarily international students, also from India. They speak the same language, they have the same religion, they're the same culture as the women. And many of these women on strike have worked there 20, 25, some up to 35 years. And we appreciate that these international students are also being exploited, because they are working because they have to work and they are to maintain their schooling, etc. And it's a very awkward situation. There have been some tensions there, but we do appreciate that they're being exploited. And we have tried very hard to connect with them, to talk to them, to try and provide other jobs. There's a lot of dialogue that's been going on between the strikers and between the replacement workers, because we hold them up for 10 minutes before they go in, so they have to stand their wait and they're talked to. And we have been successful in some ways. Some of them have not come back. We've offered them other jobs. The security sector is organized by the United Steelworkers here, and we've offered to pay for their licenses to get a security job. You can get better pay, you can get better benefits. And last Friday, we were able to convince one shift that was coming in the morning not to come in, and we drove them back to their homes. And when the other shift that was supposed to come in at night, they also were talked to and convinced not to go in. Now that didn't maintain. It didn't maintain as we opened this week, but it's a very interesting dynamic, because we're not interested in divide and rule, whether a worker's organized or not organized. They're workers and they demand respect, and we're just trying to do all we can to convince them to provide solidarity, because the women whose jobs they're taking, are the ages of their mothers, their grandmothers, right? And we're trying to make that connection that they're being exploited, they're being used, and we can find them some other employment, which isn't going to take away the jobs that the women who are on strike, have been in for decades, many of them. So it's an interesting dynamic. It's an important dynamic.
Yeah, and that's something that a strategy that has long been employed by the elite, the ruling class, for a long time, to pit workers against each other, and it's a shame to see it enacted in this way. So, Carolyn, I'm curious about how the striking workers are faring. I mean, if they have been on strike since late April, and here we are close to mid-June, I mean, that's a long time to be going without a paycheck. So, tell us about how this strike is going for them.
Yeah, well, we're I mean, when their take-home pay is about $450 a week, and they're getting strike pay of $400 a week, because we've been doing a lot of raising of money, and other unions have been very, very, very gracious in their solidarity, and it's allowed us. So in economic terms, they're making less, but they're not making, so much less that it will make, and so that's terribly important. I mean, we've created sort of a compound there. We have, people who've had weddings for their kids, they've set up tents and all that, and chairs, and we've got a mobile trailer. We've got a whole compound there, and we bring food. I mean, some of the women are Portuguese. We're having a Portuguese food day next week. We've brought all kinds of food and energy, and we've had solidarity rallies there. And I think their morale is very good. I mean, it's very hard to stay out on strike forever. I mean, obviously, you want to get a settlement, you want to get back to work, and that's very important. But my own feeling is that these women are strong. They're doing it because they feel they have to do it. And I think another thing that I want to mention is most of these women come from farm families in Punjab in India, and many of them have brothers, uncles, nephews, etc., nieces, who have been very much involved in the farmer strike, the massive farmer strike that's been going on in India for quite a few months now. And they're taking on the government, the Modi government over there, and they're also taking on the corporations, because they're trying to corporatize the whole question of farming and drive the farmers down. So they're making real links to what's going on globally and the mass fight backs that we're seeing in so many different countries in terms of their own. Because when we were first out there, they had USW, United Steelworker, on strike placards on their cars. They also had "We support the farmers" in India, and so those links, I think, are very clear. They know what people are up against in many, many areas of the world, and they see themselves, though it's a small strike, they see themselves as part of that struggle, which I think is hugely important and allows people the strength, to continue on and feel if they can do a victory here, they can win here, then this is something that could encourage others to take the step to strike, or whatever movement you might be in. So that's a big piece of it as well.
Carolyn, obviously, excuse me, workers have been impacted tremendously during the pandemic. People here in the U.S., grocery workers, for example, were advocating for hazard pay. In some instances, they got hazard pay briefly, but it was rescinded. I can think of at least two grocery chains, just using grocery as an example, that have closed stores in states, in Washington State and California, because of mandates to increase pay for workers because of pandemic pay, hazard pay, as it were. But we've also seen a big resurgence of labor organizing and union building and attempts to build unions here in the U.S. The Amazon workers in Bessemer, Alabama is the best example I can think of. Unfortunately, they weren't successful, but they took a big shot across the bow at this behemoth corporation, Amazon, which of course made billions in profit over the pandemic. We've seen graduate students organize in universities across the country. And I'm curious, how has the labor movement been impacted in Canada? Have people been more inspired to organize and to rally together in order to make sure that people are getting a working wage, a livable wage, something better than a starvation wage? You know how bad it is in the States. I don't have to tell you, but talk to us about what the labor movement has looked like in Canada since the onset of the pandemic.
Well, I mean, we have a greater union density in Canada than you do have in the United States. I mean, we have, I think it's about 31% of the workforce is unionized. Most of that is public sector, though, I will say. And I think there has been more interest for sure in all kinds of sectors in organizing, unionizing, and collectively coming together. There's a small strike that's going on right now in Toronto, the wine racks. We have government beer and liquor stores, if I might put it that way, as opposed to, I think, in most of the states except New Hampshire and a few others maybe. So they've gone on strike essentially on the basis of seniority. They want seniority because there's incredible favoritism in the giving out the hours, the scheduling, and things of that nature. So you're seeing it. We had a strike very recently too. Tropicana, which was a community center that primarily provided services to the Black community in the Scarborough area of Toronto. Most of the workers were Black, but the board was too. And yet they were, for whatever reason, trying to really push hard on them. And there was a strike there, a strong strike, and got a lot of solidarity. And they won. They didn't win everything, but they won the fact that the union had to be recognized and they had to have that representation. So we are seeing it in smaller. And as I was talking to earlier about the miners in Sudbury, Ontario, and in northern Quebec, people are going out. And I'm not trying to say that there's a mass strike wave or anything of that nature, but I think there is a real connection. And I think people see, like I was talking about the women strikers at Rex Place and the Indian farmer movement. Well, I think the whole impact of Black Lives Matter movement, and in this country, there's a huge Indigenous land back movement as well. And people are very, very cognizant of it and recognizing that people are fighting back on so many levels, on economic levels, but also on the systemic racism and all of that. We just had, sadly, a Muslim family run down in a town in Ontario, London, Ontario, by a white man, a young white man. 4 of them killed and one poor little 9-year-old still in hospital. And it was an Islamophobic attack. So I think, wrapping in the economic exploitation and the racist oppression, all of that, I think, is giving people a sense that, wait a minute. I'm just doing an okay. All right. Sorry about that. So anyway, what I was saying, I think all of that, it comes together in a way that people just see something is very wrong. The center is not holding in many senses, and there has to be a real change. And all those connections are being part and parcel of what we're seeing here, and I'm sure in the United States as well.
So Carolyn, if people here want to send some solidarity to the striking workers at Rex Place in North York, how can they do that?
Well, if they can certainly send it to. I mean, I think that. I don't have this. I mean, I don't think they're going to send us money for it. We will be getting that from our own unions.
We have some viewers in Canada. We have some viewers in Canada.
Dynamite. Okay, that's dynamite. Well, I don't know. I'll give you a link to that. Okay. Brilliant. And I think any solidarity you connect with. I know you were in connection with Shannon from the communication department. I mean, she's a perfect person to deal with that. And I think that every piece of solidarity, whatever it is, small, large organizations or individuals, is hugely it makes a huge difference, is what I'm trying to say, because when workers are on strike, they never forget who gave them help, never forget. And I think it just strengthens the solidarity. And I think people should really allow themselves to be inspired by, workplace actions like this, where just the ordinary worker just decides at one moment they're going to make a stand, and I'm going to stand with my fellow workers, and we're going to stand up against this employer who's been treating us like dirt. And it's just something that's invigorating to the spirit, and I think it really builds confidence, because when they go back into that workplace, no matter if they win big or if they're not going to lose, because we're not going to take concessions, absolutely not, but they will go back into that workplace with a lot more confidence than they had earlier, and I think it'll be a changed workplace. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And thank you very much for getting in touch and providing the opportunity to say a little bit about it.
Absolutely. And thank you for making some time to join us, Carolyn. I know that you have been in the labor movement in Canada, deeply involved in the labor movement. And you mentioned that you are a healthcare worker as well.
Yeah.
So we appreciate your love, your work, and your sacrifice on behalf of people who are, you know, not only struggling, but being deliberately oppressed, especially in the face of profits made by the company, and they can absolutely afford to share the wealth and spread some of that money around to the hardworking women of color, especially that work at the Rex Glass plant there in North York. Carolyn, we appreciate you making some time for us today, and I'm so honored to have you on here. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Where are you located, by the way? I wasn't all that familiar.
So I'm right outside of Washington, D.C. I'm in Maryland.
Okay. Oh, I have a good friend, Virginia Rodino from Maryland, who's part of the Unite Against, I think, hate and fascism or some group like that down there. But nonetheless, good. Well,
we appreciate it. And listen, thank you. And you do the same. And I wish I could be in Toronto when they have Portuguese food day on the strike line. And when they have Indian, when the Punjabi ladies bring the Indian food, I wish I could be right there.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Guys, we have been speaking with Carolyn Egan. Carolyn is the president of the Steelworker Toronto Area Council. She is also the president of the United Steelworker Council, Local 8300. Again, we're talking about the strike of, like she mentioned, mostly Southeast Asian women who are immigrants, who are older, working at Rex Glass, which is a packaging processing plant outside of Toronto. They are barely making above minimum wage. They worked throughout the pandemic. They were deemed essential workers. And the company, I think it's Richards Plastics, if I have that right, or Richards Packaging. Yeah. Thank you, Carolyn. Richards Packaging made a lot of money during the pandemic, and they are refusing to pay these women. So we just wanted to take a moment to highlight this action, this particular struggle that is happening, and people who are standing up saying, nope, we work for this, we earn this, we deserve this, you need to give it to us, not now, but yesterday. So we are sending much love and solidarity to the workers out there in North York, in Mississauga, in the greater Toronto area. So awesome. Thank you so much, Carolyn. We appreciate Carolyn making some time to be with us today. Hey gang, what's up, Fire Fam? I see, let me get back to the chat because I saw the flame emojis, and I'm glad that you all, dug what we do right there. And again, y'all, Black Magic, I know you sent me a story idea. And I'm working on that. And I know Courtney, the SLP, has been sending me links to people in North Carolina. So again, y'all, the struggles, the actions, I need to know it. Please tell me, send it to me. Let me know. Hit us up on all of the social media platforms. We are on Facebook and Instagram at BIDWKB. And you can follow us on Twitter at Burn It Down KB. I'm sorry. Y'all know I have memory issues. And I think you know why. And what's the other one? We're also on TikTok. Molly said we do very well on TikTok. So TikTok it up. The next thing I want us to get into, people, has to do with this whole kerfuffle behind Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's comments, linking atrocities committed by the U.S. and Israel to that of Hamas and the Taliban in Afghanistan. Now, she said that she was being somewhat specific in terms of grievances that have been brought before the international, the ICC, the International Criminal Court. I believe that's what the ICC stands for, not the inter-county connector, as it is in Maryland. That's what the ICC stands for here. But let me get to this clip and let me just let y'all understand where this whole thing started off. And it's not so much now. I take no offense nor offense to anything that Ilhan Omar said about the United States, Israel acting as terrorist states, because, honey, let the evidence reflect. Let the record show. Let history speak for itself. I mean, my goodness, the U.S. is not, if a case can absolutely be made that the United States is the biggest number one terrorist state in the world. Okay. Look at our work. Look at our handiwork everywhere, from Korea to Vietnam to Nicaragua. Where else you want to go? To Chile, everywhere, to indigenous America. I mean, let the record reflect. Okay, terrorism is our business, and the business has been good for a very, very long time. So I don't have any problem with what Ilhan Omar said. The problem is the chastisement and the pearl clutching on behalf of Democratic leadership and other Democrats as well. The false framing of her comments somehow as being anti-Semitic. She didn't say anything about Jewish people. She said something about Israel, which is a state which has policies that are very worthy of critique, if not outright scorn, right? So let us be clear here. So I want us to take a look at this clip. Now, get comfy, because I think this is like 3 minutes. But again, I don't want to omit context for anything that I talk about, because number one, goddammit, we're on YouTube. Okay, so I mean, if y'all got 60 minutes to watch the show, you got 3 minutes to get some context. So there is that. So Tunde, I'm sorry, I'm having problems finding the correlating clip, but yes, I know you know which one it is. So okay, let me set this up for y'all. So this is what we're about to watch. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was testifying. If you're just talking in front of the House committee, does that count as testifying? I'm gonna guess so, because I think you got to be sworn in, right, to talk and to address Congress. Anyway, this was the House Foreign Affairs Committee meeting on the State Department's fiscal year 2022 budget and their foreign policy priorities. And the Congresswoman from Minnesota, Ilhan Omar, sits on this exact committee. And some have pointed out that the questions that she's about to ask, that you're about to hear her ask the Secretary of State, is all the more reason why someone like Ilhan Omar needs to be on the Foreign Affairs Committee, because otherwise it would be the standard pat answer or pat questions that don't examine or go into any depth or don't even offer any detailed, specific problems with the way the United States engages its foreign policy around the world, right? The only thing a lot of these Congress people just like to ask the State Department and the Department of Defense is like, do y'all need more money? Oh, yeah, y'all need more money? Okay, cool. Like, aside from that, and do y'all, are y'all trying to, expand the U.S. military imprint in more places? Oh, you are? Oh, okay, great. You know what I mean? So the fact that there's someone like Ilhan Omar actually challenging this narrative is grossly important, if not for the only reason to illuminate how full of shit and how awful the United States operates as a very bad actor everywhere around the world. So guys, get comfy. You're about to hear Ilhan Omar ask Antony Blinken the questions. Okay, she wants to know the questions. Is there any retribution? Is there any get back? Is there any way for people who have been impacted by US-backed attacks or Israeli-backed attacks to have any sort of recourse? And of course, Antony Blinken gives the standard pat bullshit answer, and Ilhan Omar went on Twitter to respond. But anyway, context, here we go. Let's check out that clip.
I know you opposed the court's investigation in both Palestine and in Afghanistan. I haven't seen any evidence in either cases that domestic courts both can and will prosecute alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity. And I would emphasize that in Israel and Palestine, this includes crimes committed by both the Israeli security forces and Hamas. In Afghanistan, it includes crimes committed by the Afghan national government and the Taliban. So in both of these cases, if domestic courts can't or won't pursue justice, and we oppose the ICC, where do we think the victims of these supposed crimes can go for justice? In both of these cases, if domestic courts can't or won't pursue justice, and we oppose the ICC, where do we think victims are supposed to go for justice? And what justice mechanisms do you support for them?
Thank you. First, let me just say at the outset that it is impossible not to be profoundly moved by not just the loss of life in the recent violence and conflict, but especially the children whose lives were lost. And we all have a tendency to throw statistics and numbers out there, but we are talking about boys and girls, Israelis and Palestinians, as well as men and women. And I think none of us, from whatever perspective we come, can lose sight of that. So that's one thing that's very important. Look, you know our views on the ICC and its jurisdiction. We continue to believe that absent a Security Council referral or absent the request by the state itself, that's not appropriate. I continue to believe that whether it is the United States or Israel, both of us have the means.
Mr. Secretary, I do understand that point. I'm asking what mechanisms do you think is available to them?
I believe that we have, whether it's the United States or Israel, we both have the mechanisms to make sure that there is accountability in any situations where there are concerns about the use of force and human rights, etc. I believe that both of our democracies have that capacity, and we've demonstrated it, and we'll need to continue to demonstrate it going forward.
And in the case of Afghanistan?
With regard to Afghanistan, if it's our objection, as you know, was to the assertion of jurisdiction over the United States in the absence of a Security Council referral. And I believe that we have the means, if there are any cases to be brought, to adjudicate them and to find justice.
Again, that was Secretary of State Anthony Blinken being questioned by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar regarding the International Criminal Courts, hearing of different cases of atrocities, and Ilhan Omar asking, hey, well, the United States doesn't believe in the ICC, right? Well, if the ICC is the only recognized international body where people can bring grievances or accusations of war crimes or something of the like, what recourse do people in Palestine have against Israel for destroying everything? You know what I mean? Residential buildings, schools, nothing seemingly was off limits in this most recent attack by the Israelis into Gaza. And so Congresswoman Omar went on to tweet, guys, this is what got her, I hate even saying hot water, because that's implying that I think that she said something wrong. I do not. But the rest of them fake frauds, phony ass progressive, faux ass leftists, fake asses. So Ilhan Omar tweeted this on June 7th. She said, quote, "We must have the same level of accountability and justice for all victims of crimes against humanity. We have seen unthinkable atrocities committed by the U.S., Hamas, Israel, Afghanistan, and the Taliban." And then she includes in that same tweet a clip of the exchange that we just saw between she and Secretary Blinken. And that is when the shit hit the fan, okay? Of course, the right lost their shit, right? So we don't, that's to be expected. Like, I don't even pay attention to what the fuck conservatives do, because them Bamas are wildly predictable, right? And unfortunately for someone like Ilhan Omar, who is Black woman and Muslim, that makes her a very easy target for the right? And I experienced a teeny tiny bit of that with that Tucker Carlson bullshit. And so I can only imagine all the crap that Ilhan Omar is receiving right now. If you actually go to her Twitter page, on her feed, she included a voicemail of someone threatening her, calling her, what do you call her, raghead nigger? Hard ER, right? Like, just so she knew what time it was. You know what I'm saying? He hit her with the hard ER. So the right got activated against her. So she's getting the usual amount of bullshit, I would assume, that comes along with that. But the Democrats, man, people in her own party fell all over themselves to get to pile upon Ilhan Omar. Tunde, if you could pull up that statement released by the Democratic leadership, let me read y'all this here statement. If you could take it full screen so we can all read it, so we could all read along together. That was some of my favorite activities, by the way. In elementary school, I loved reading in class, reading aloud. That was my shit. Let's see. The Democratic leadership statement, International Criminal Court comments by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar called her out directly. Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Nancy said, let me put my name on this here first, even though she's a speaker, and of course her name would go first. I know that, I'm just slicing it up. But anyway, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, Maryland, Majority Whip James E. Clyburn, Uncle Ruckus from South Carolina, Assistant Speaker Catherine Clark, I don't know you, but I don't like you just because you put your name on this bullshit, Caucus Chair Hakeem Jeffries from New York City, and Caucus Vice Chair Pete Aguilar issued this joint statement addressing comments made by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. And they go on to say, quote, legitimate criticism of the policies of both the United States and Israel is protected by the values of free speech and democratic debate. And indeed, such criticism is essential to the strength and health of our democracies. But drawing false equivalencies between democracies, y'all can't even get the goddamn voting rights bill passed, but you talk about democracies. But drawing false equivalencies between democracies like the United States and Israel and groups that engage in terrorism like Hamas and the Taliban foments prejudice. Against who? Foments prejudice and undermines progress towards a future of peace and security for all. We welcome the clarification by Congresswoman Omar that there is no moral equivalency between the U.S. and Israel and Hamas and the Taliban. A clarification that Ilhan Omar apparently went ahead and did it seemingly under duress. What other way was she giving said clarification? But anyway, her statements didn't really require clarification because you know why? She said what the fuck she said, right? And we agree. we are in agreement because the United States, I mean, if we were to sit here and honestly go through the terrorism that the U.S. has committed since its inception as a nation, honey, we couldn't even make it off the continent. We would be here 10, 12, 24, 40 hours straight. You know what I'm saying? Talking about all the terrorism and atrocities that the United States committed against indigenous nations here on this continent. Oh my gosh, if we just go abroad just a little bit, if we go down to Grenada, if we go down to Venezuela, if we check out Nicaragua, if we go to Colombia, Chile, if we go to Africa, come on now, stop playing with me. Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, James Clyburn. Fuck you mean? You mean this a false equivalency? The United States is the OGs of terrorism, shawty. Don't nobody do terrorism better than us. And this deliberate commitment to misframing America's role in committing terrorism, genocide, coups, destabilization of governments, assassination of political leaders, of movement leaders. Like, come on. Like, I'm so tired of constantly trying to re-explain history to people who already know better, right? And the commitment to toe the imperialist line, like it knows no bounds, right? And again, I've been telling y'all about these congressional black caucus niggas. I'm telling you, y'all like Hakeem Jeffries, y'all better unlike Hakeem Jeffries. I I know nobody in this here chat better be liking James Clyburn. You are free to find the exit, please, because we don't deal with Congressman Uncle Ruckus around here. James Clyburn during the election talking about he was a progressive. Nigga, if you don't get the whole fuck up out of here immediately. Who sent us some bread? I wrote it down. It was Chuck Diesel and Franny French. Thank you, Franny French. Thank you, Chuck Diesel. Thank you, Toby Swally. Lateef Menz, I know you sent us some bread last show, and I forgot to shout you out because it was late in the show. So let me do my shouting out now. But that pissed me off. Like, and it is rightfully making a lot of people mad that Ilhan Omar cannot, and I was going to say cannot speak her truth. It is not her truth. It is the truth. It is the truth. There's only really one way to view this country, and that is through the lens of terrorism. That's all this nation has done is enact terrorism. Oh, Lord have mercy. I saw a clip, and I meant to grab it. It had a lot of views on Twitter, but it was this white man schooling this white woman on a television program that I did not recognize. And maybe that's why I didn't grab it. But the white lady's head was about to explode when the white man sat there and told her that in actuality, it was the Russians. It was the Soviet Union that defeated Nazi Germany, not the Allied forces, including the United States. And she was like, what? Are you sure? And he's like, yeah, yes, that is exactly what happened. In fact, the U.S. coddled Nazis who were fleeing Germany. The United States found a space for the Nazis, right? Or they helped them get to Argentina or whatever the hell it is they hauled ass to, the ones that got out of Germany. The United States has been coddling Nazis, white supremacists, terrorists, genociders, all the whole way, baby, ever since 1776 and previous. But hold on, back to Ilhan Omar, because there was a couple things I wanted to point out. Tunde, if you could pop up B3 for me, because what is going to get Ilhan Omar in actually, I want to say legitimate trouble, but no, it's looking like she could be in a bit of a pickle. A group of Jewish Democrats in the House has sent Ilhan Omar a letter regarding her statements, and they are framing again her comments as anti-Semitic. And because of a House resolution passed in 2019, there could be a chance for Ilhan Omar to face some sort of repercussions from members of the House body. And that's if Democrats decide to go in this direction, right? Because that's going to be playing a dangerous game for them. Because number one, and this is just my opinion, and actually let me return to the chat. So if I'm about to speak out of turn here, y'all can feel free to correct me, okay? Because I don't want to be speaking out of turn about some shit that, you know, that ain't really my business, but it's kind of my business because, you know, whatever. But so my perception is that the amount of American Jews who are firmly in support of Israel, no matter what, my perception is that that number is dwindling and dwindling significantly, right? People are smart enough to make distinctions between attacks on Jewish people and the Jewish faith versus critiques and legitimate criticism of the Israeli state and how the Israeli state operates, especially when it comes to dealing with Gaza and the people in Palestine. So, so the Jewish, some Jewish Democrats, I'm not even sure if it was all the Jewish Democrats. Hold on, let me double check that. But a contingent of Jewish Democrats have called Omar's comments anti-Semitic. They issued a statement asking again for her clarification and saying, quote, equating the United States and Israel to Hamas and the Taliban is as offensive as it is misguided, ignoring the differences between democracies governed by the rule of law and contemptible organizations that engage in terrorism. At best discredits one intended argument and at worst reflects deep-seated prejudice. Stop. Y'all are making shit up, man. Y'all are making shit up. And it's easy for them to do that because she's Muslim, right? I don't know why certain segments of the Jewish vocal class thinks that Muslims are their enemies, but not all Muslims hate all Jews. I mean, I think that's a pretty basic statement of fact that should not even be disputed. I'm pretty sure Ilhan Omar doesn't hold anti-Semitic views. It's hard to live in America, honestly, and hold anti-Semitic views, y'all. First of all, anti-Semitism is something I don't even fully understand, okay? I understand what it is, but I don't understand why it is. Like, anti-Semitism never made any sense to me. As a Black American, I don't make any distinction between Jewish Americans and regular white Americans. The only difference is Jewish Americans, they go to church on a different day, right? They just go to church on Saturday. How are they different than the regular whites? I don't know. But I grew up in a mostly white, well, not my neighborhood was not mostly white, but my area was mostly white. And I always fucked with the Jewish kids because we got off all the Jewish holidays. And I was with that. We got off Rosh Hashanah. We got off Yom Kippur. I was with it. I said, yes, tell me more. Oh, give me some of that matzo ball soup. This shit is tasted. Like, I don't understand anti-Semitism, right? So that's why I know in my heart that when people make critiques about Israel, it does not reflect on the Jewish people, because number one, all Jewish people don't live in Israel, right? And Israel don't speak for all Jewish people. Also, Israel speaks for itself. Israel, in its zeal to quote unquote defend itself, is probably the baddest motherfucker on the block in that neighborhood, right? They are a nuclear armed power. They have a very sophisticated military. They have a very highly trained military. The Americans send our police to go over there and train with them. Israel can defend itself fine. So I don't want to hear no shit from all these Democrats about Israel has a right to defend itself. God damn, like Israel is defending the fuck out of itself against fireworks. And I'm not trying to diminish in any way the life lost in Israel, but it pales in comparison to the numbers of lives lost in Palestine in the same kind of conflict. And when you factor in how many kids in Palestine were killed versus how many people in Israel were killed, come on, man. What are we talking about, man? We talking about apples and oranges, Chief. And I feel for Ilhan Omar. Now, apparently she responded to the Jewish House Democrats in a tweet. She said it was, quote, shameless for colleagues who can call me when they need my support to now put out a statement asking for clarification and not just call. Yup. And I hope that was a shot Ilhan Omar is sending to the House Democrats. Like, hey, bitch, let me explain something to y'all. Y'all want to throw me under the bus for some bullshit over some shit that y'all know, number one, ain't anti-Semitic. Number two, is not inaccurate in terms of the United States committing atrocities around the world. Okay, nigga, I got you. Guess who ain't going to be voting for y'all when y'all need, that party line vote? Good. All the more reason Ilhan Omar should consider departing the Democratic Party. Now, again, I understand how party politics work, especially at the national congressional level. That I'm sure that Ilhan Omar is receiving support from the DCCC. People affiliate with Democrats because they need that bread, right? Because congressional elections cost a lot of money. And I don't know whether or not her leaving the Democratic Party would equal political suicide. Conversely, I mean, I think so many of us, right, would be so inspired by her leaving the Democratic Party. We go send Ilhan Omar all the money, right? Sign me up, Ilhan Omar. How much you need? You need $20 a month? Good. Count me in. Yes. I mean, she could actually have a people funded campaign a la Bernie Sanders. Hold on. Something else I want to circle back to, because like I was saying, the wholehearted support for Israel, no matter what, amongst American Jewish people, from my perspective, is not what it once was. And that has been reflected in, there is an organization called If Not Now, When? And it's American Jews. It's B4, Tunde. If you could pop up B4 for me, please. and pop it up full screen so Auntie can read it. Because Auntie don't got my reading glasses yet, but that's okay. They coming. So the group, If Not Now, When? Hold on, let me pull them up so I can describe. Wait, Molly sent me a message. What did Molly say? It's not every Jewish Democrat at Kim Brown because my congressperson is on it. Oh, who's your congressperson, Molly? Who's your congressperson in Germany? Tell me who your congressperson is. Thank you very much for that clarification, Molly. Molly just let me know. So it is not all Jewish Democrats who signed that bullshit letter to Ilhan Omar. Because yes, it is not all Jewish Democrats, but yeah. So If Not Now, When? It is a group of young Jewish Americans who stand with Palestine, who stand with Palestinians. And the fact that they came out and said that Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, let me read this tweet actually, said Ilhan Omar is being targeted for her statement about Israeli accountability and Palestinian justice. We have seen her and others smeared before for speaking out for freedom and dignity. As American Jews in the same fight, we stand with Ilhan Omar. So be clear, everybody. People who are making anti-Semitic accusations against Congresswoman Omar, the American Jewish people are not a monolith. Not everybody is on board with that shit, okay? And don't let nobody tell you different. And the fact that, again, House Democrats are so weak and so beholden to the Israeli state for reasons there's no need to speculate. I'm sure there are very concrete reasons. They're just outside my realm of understanding. Like, come on. Like, at some point we have to call a thing a thing. If people like Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi allegedly could see the injustice in apartheid South Africa in the 80s and beforehand, what is it that is not allowing y'all to understand the same thing is happening to Palestinians and is being committed by the Israelis and is being enabled by the United States? Today, if you could pop up B5 for me. Now, B5 is a tweet from someone on Twitter whose opinion I respect. Her name is Sugar. And Sugar, this is what Sugar had to say. Sugar said, conservative resistance to Project 1619 and liberal resistance to Ilhan's statement shows the refusal to accept the truth about this country is bipartisan. Listen, America is the last ones to understand how ugly America is. And it's weird because the attempts to prevent so-called critical race theory from being taught in public schools, right? Because it's teaching white students to hate themselves, says some of these parents, right? Is it? Why? How is teaching the accurate reflection of history teaching them to hate themselves? Unless you think that perhaps your ancestors did some shit that is hate-worthy, right? Like a hit dog will holler. If you felt as though America's ends justified the means, right? Or means justified the ends, then what's the problem with teaching the kids the truth, right? What's the problem with teaching the children about the level of racial terror that this country has imposed upon non-white people on this continent and non-white people abroad? What are y'all afraid of? You're afraid of your own kids rising up and saying, hey, we're going to set aside this privilege and all this wealth because this shit ain't right? No, they don't want that to happen. No. And unfortunately, not unfortunately, actually, I actually think, hopefully, naively, every generation seems to hope that this is the generation that's going to end racism. And so far it hasn't happened. I can't even say whether or not it's been diminished to any significant degree. I'm not sure, because the young kids, some of these young whites are very enthusiastic about the racism. They support it wholeheartedly. Guys, I didn't realize the hour. It is 6:15. I have held you all here long enough. Listen, if you have not already done this, please, can you hit subscribe to the program? We're already over 2,000 subscribers. It has been tremendous amounts of joy to my heart. And that would really mean a lot. Also, gang, when you leave here, I need you to go on over to Black Power Media, and I need you to check out Dr. CBS, The Last Dope Intellectual. You got to check out this show because I think this is the last show before CBS takes a break. She's going to be taking a break for the summer. So you got to get on fire, get on board with The Last Dope Intellectual over there on Black Power Media. And of course, check out all the slate of the shows over there. Luke Mon Nation, Renegade Culture. You got to check out The Ear Doctor on Sundays. And of course, I hop in from time to time, Wednesday and Thursday mornings on the Remix Morning Show, which of course airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But Dr. Jared Ball is on there Monday through Friday because he's a soldier. Dr. Jared Ball said, hey, I'm going to get all you motherfuckers on this Black Power Media train if I got to be on this bitch every single day. And I respect it. So please, 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 please be sure to support our comrades over there at Black Power Media. I'm very, very happy to be a part of it. And yes, Sundays, Big Teal. Yes. I know I see so many of y'all in the chat here that comes and hangs out with us on the Remix Morning Show. So I know we in good company. As my grandma would say, we in good company. All right, y'all. That's it. Have a great weekend. Please be safe. The coronavirus, guess what? It's still out here jumping on people. And guess what? It's out here jumping on vaccinated people. So I need y'all to please move accordingly. Move as though there's still a global pandemic in effect, because it absolutely is. Before I go, like I said, I want to thank Carolyn Egan from the United Steelworkers. Yes. The United Steelworkers, Toronto area, local 8300. I appreciate Carolyn. Carolyn is an OG in that Canadian labor movement, y'all. Ask about it. Put some respect on Carolyn's name out here. Carolyn been out here doing this. And so we want to send love and solidarity to the workers at Rex Place out there in North York, in Ontario. Stay strong, sisters, out there on that picket line. And we are sending y'all love and solidarity and support. And gang, I'm going to see y'all on Tuesday. Y'all are the best. Thank you so much for your love and support and for the super chats, and follow us places around the internet if it's not too much trouble. All right. On behalf of Genevieve, Tunde, and Male, I am Kim Brown. We'll burn it down with Kim Brown. We will see y'all again Tuesday, my people. See y'all later. Bye-bye.